Hi, I have a mic and a pulse, and I have officially gone from being interested in Starfield to being hyped. If you're here, then you probably know that Bethesda just dropped their largest ever look at Starfield's gameplay, and it looks good. The combat's received some solid polish since their last showing, the spaceship customization is crazier than I ever expected, the different alien species all look amazing, and in low gravity you can knock people several feet in the air with one punch. But you didn't come here to be told how to feel, you came here because you have better things to do than pore over every second of this video looking for details, and I don't. So today I'm going to talk about 10 gameplay details you may have missed, which is probably the subject of several thousand videos already, but I haven't had time to do anything in more depth yet, so work with me, people. So, number 1. Radiation. We already saw in the last trailer that your armor had a radiation-resistant stat, and while we don't see you get it irradiated in this trailer, we do see that your maximum health can be reduced in the same way that radiation reduces it in the recent Fallout games, so it seems likely that radiation works the same way here as it did there. 2. The ingredients for an automatron mechanic. While we were already told that Constellation customized Vasco, we can now actually see that a lot of other robots use Vasco's same basic chassis but with different parts, and that you could have a generic robot companion/crew at your bases, which means that it's entirely possible that you could swap out some of Vasco's pieces or heavily customize other robots as well. 3. Legendary items. They're not highlighted, but we do see a few items with the same legendary system as the recent Fallout games, and seemingly some of the same effects, with color coding seemingly replacing the star system. 4. Multiple types of outpost. While most Fallout 4 settlements were largely interchangeable, Starfield's outposts seem to have at least some form of specialization. We see on one planet that you can set up at least 2 types of outposts, civilian and industrial, and we see from the companion roster that outposts can also be tied to factions, with Barrett currently at a Crimson Fleet outpost, which is weird because I thought the Crimson Fleet killed him 20 minutes in, which is why you have his ship and his robot and his helmet with a bullet in it. But either he's fine and everything's easily forgiven, or he gets captured and there just isn't a kidnap setting on the roster. Back on the outposts themselves, while industrial would clearly focus on the resource production side of things, it's not clear what the advantage of a civilian outpost is, or whether there are other types such as agricultural or scientific. It's also possible that this is more of an adjective the game applies to your settlements than a hard class, and if you took a civilian outpost and threw in a few mining rigs, it would be relabeled industrial. It's also neat that certain geographic areas have certain resources, so you can't just build one outpost, put 14 kinds of extractor on it, and get every resource. 5. Mechs? Land vehicles have been heavily speculated on, and while it seems that you aren't going to have a rover or buggy to get around a planet, since you can just land within walking distance of a point of interest and walk there, with some extra POI seemingly spawn near you when landing, we've nevertheless seen a couple of mechs. There seem to be 2 in a field in the smaller trailer that was part of the Xbox showcase, and the punching gameplay we saw actually seems to be happening inside the Mars mech factory that we previously saw the label of, with one semi-broken mech clearly visible, and some others more obscured in the background. As such, while cruising around a planet in something like Mass Effect 1's Mako ain't happening, there could still be a set-piece battle or two where you get a mech, much like Mass Effect 3's Atlas or Triton, and they could make for a very formidable boss. 6. Mind control. Now, we saw a xenosociology skill that let you control aliens, but right next to that skill is a brain being puppeteered, suggesting that with a different skill you can apply similar effects to humans, especially since the little puppet visual we saw when they control the alien is the same visual as the base form of this perk. I might have to do an updated skill video as well, since we can now see both more skirks and the fully upgraded forms of many of them. 7. We now have a more clear definition of skill challenges. While Bethesda said you completed challenges related to the skills to level them up, we previously only saw use the skill X number of times as these challenges. It does seem though that some of them will have somewhat more unusual challenges, such as having to sprint for 1 kilometer with a companion to level up leadership. 8th come critical hits, which aren't big news but are subtle enough that you might have missed them. They seem to be pretty random, not being triggered by sneak attacks, headshots, or attacking staggered or downed enemies, and seem to work for explosives as well as guns and melee weapons. It's possible the marksman perk affects them, as well as this other perk with the crosshairs, and it's likely that the lucky legendary effect has followed its way here from Fallout. 9. Spaceship weapons and damage types. While the previous trailer showed us rapid-fire lasers, slower, more powerful cannons, and missiles that need to lock on but do great damage, it seems this picture was incomplete, as a glimpse at the ship construction menu shows that on top of energy weapons for taking down shields and ballistic weapons for damaging hulls, there are also electromagnetic weapons that are designed for system damage and thus probably good for pirates who want to take ships intact, and the in-flight systems menu also shows us that there are particle beam weapons as well, with their skill saying that they damage multiple systems at once, which actually threw me a little, since I thought that particle beams were the electromagnetic weapons, but we see some more weapons in our inventory, and we see that lasers deal straight energy damage, particle beams mix energy with physical, and Gauss weapons are just straight physical with no charge left on the bullets, with the only weapon we see doing electromagnetic damage being a modified laser rifle. Also worth mentioning that spaceship combat seems to be just as dependent on RPG mechanics as ground combat, with players who want to craft an ace pilot having plenty of opportunity to do so. 9.5. Honorable mention to the space magic gravity manipulation power at the very end, which is one detail very few people missed. No idea how it works, though if it comes from the artifacts it could work like dragon shouts in Skyrim, with you unlocking stronger abilities the more artifacts you find. 10. And, unfortunately, despite a lot of interesting news, we must end on a somewhat sorrowful note, which is that to enter your ship, you walk to the bottom of the ladder, look at the hatch, and click enter. That's right, it seems that despite all of their fancy trailers and engine upgrades and animation systems, we're still not going to be climbing ladders. Or at least not this one. So yeah, that's what I got. My next video will probably be an update of my attempt to break down every single skill perk skirk that I made after last year's video with the new information. I might also take requests if there's anything my subscribers think is worth going over. So yeah, peace.